What's good, y'all? Welcome to the first preseason preview for the 2023-2024 NBA season. I figured since we're in the dead of the offseason with pretty much nothing going on in the NBA world, I decided to choose a few different teams, the list of them being right here, to just deep dive into and do these preseason previews on. Obviously, from the title and the thumbnail, you guys could tell we're starting off with the New York Knicks. That's my favorite team. Figured we might as well start out in the hometown team. But if you see one of your favorite teams on that list, comment down below. I'll bump it up to higher on the list to get that video out faster for you guys. I'm going to be dropping a new video on each team every Wednesdays and Saturdays, so if you aren't already, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss those ones out. I already did a video pretty similar to this about the Dallas Mavericks and the Indiana Pacers, so if you're fans of those teams, check out the channel. And without further ado, let's just get right into the New York Knicks. We're going to start off by talking about the key additions the Knicks made to their roster this offseason, which for them specifically was just the signing of Donte DiVincenzo. As you can see, he averaged 9.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists in 72 games for the Warriors. As I just mentioned, the Knicks didn't really make too many moves to improve their current roster, but the addition of Donte DiVincenzo helps the team out on a bunch of different categories. We can start off by talking about his three-point shooting. You just saw he shot just barely under 40% from three last season, and that is a huge need for the Knicks as they don't have many knockdown three-point shooters. There was a few times last season where we were running lineups of Josh Hart and RJ Barrett together, and sometimes the spacing on that could just get really ugly. Donte DiVincenzo now, if you insert him instead of one of those guys, he has that knockdown ability, especially from the corner. He is knocked down from the corner. He also helps on the other side of the court, though, as he is a great guard defender. Only being 6'4", you don't really look for him to guard a lot of the different wings of the NBA, but put him on a point guard or small shooting guards, and he will cause havoc. And then kind of similar to his college teammate Josh Hart, he kind of just gets onto the floor and does whatever he needs to help the team win. You know, we've already mentioned his shooting and his defense, but he can also grab some rebounds, maybe play make a little bit if you need him to do. He just does a little bit of everything. His whole career, he's kind of just been a guy that knows how to win. He started off with the Milwaukee Bucks, winning a championship with them. He gets traded to Sacramento, but he only plays there for like half a season. There was some weird stuff that went on about that. And then he goes over to the Golden State Warriors, another winning franchise, and helps them, you know, get to the playoffs, win playoff series. He just brings the hustle and the effort that I know New York will love to see. In order to have additions, you have to have losses, though, and the Knicks' loss this offseason was Obi Toppin being traded over to Indiana in exchange for 2 second-round pick swaps. Obi's production with the Knicks has always been up and down, and I think that's tied closely with his role. He never really got a chance to have a good, consistent role with the Knicks, so I think him moving on to the Pacers is best for both parties. With Obi being from New York and just having a lot of flashy highlight plays, I'm sure like a lot of you guys, he was one of my favorite players on the Knicks. It is bittersweet to see him go, but to be fair, the Knicks didn't really use him to his strengths. With Obi not being on the team anymore, the Knicks do lack size, though. I mean that in a literal sense, you know, Obi being 6'9", and, you know, we were just talking about our new addition, Donte DiVincenzo. He's only 6'4", so obviously the Knicks are going to be hurting in the size department. But luckily enough, Obi didn't really play big. He didn't play like a 6'9" guy, so I don't think the Knicks will be missing out too much. A lot of times he was sitting at the three-point line, you know, in the corner, just shooting threes. He never was the best rebounder, so we're not really missing out too much on that. I don't want to harp too much on that, though. We'll talk about it a little bit later on in the video. The other way the Knicks kind of lose out, though, on not having Obi Toppin on their team is he was incredible in transition. A lot of times he would go contest a shot and just boom, out. Already at the other rim, it was just grab the rebound, kick it ahead, easy 2 points. Having a good point guard on Jalen Brunson, though, he could still make those advanced passes if guys get out in transition. Isaiah Hartenstein a few times last year would grab the rebound and just throw it down there to guys. So I don't think we're going to be like a terrible transition team now just because we lost Obi Toppin, but I think it'll definitely take a hit at least a little bit. And now that we know what New York added and lost, we can look at a potential depth chart that they could be running next season. The starting lineup stays the same with Jalen Brunson, Quentin Grimes, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. And with Tom Thibodeau running a 9-man rotation last year, I assume he's going to stick with that, with Emmanuel Quickley, Donte DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and Isaiah Hartenstein being the bench mob. I've been looking around Knicks Twitter this offseason. If you don't follow me on Twitter, make sure you follow me. It's right in the description. Jacob Blocks. Make sure you go, do it right now. But I've been looking, and there's been a conversation on who should be our starting two guard. Quentin Grimes, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo. It's a pretty obvious decision for me. I think Quentin Grimes deserves that starting spot. He's earned that starting spot. You know, the great defense that he could play on the perimeter along with his shooting, I think is just incredible. I can see a world though that maybe, you know, a little bit throughout the season we put Dante DiVincenzo into the starting lineup for those same reasons, because he is a great defender, he is a great shooter. But at least for right now, I think we keep the synergy together. That starting lineup, we played very well last season. And I think Quentin Grimes, homegrown talent, you know, he deserves to get that starting spot. And that does allow Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo to come off the bench, you know, talking about synergy and chemistry and all that. Those two boys being college teammates, I'm sure that they would enjoy coming off that bench together. There also has been conversations on if Emmanuel Quickley should start. I really do like him coming off our bench, though, to have that playmaking off the bench. You know, Dante DiVincenzo can handle the ball a little bit. We saw when IQ was out in that Heat series that you know, Josh Hart can run the point a little bit. I don't really like that, though. I'd rather Emmanuel Quickley just come in, have full reins of the offense, do his thing. Obviously, he can play next to Jalen Brunson, but I think he gets his second chance at his 6th Man of the Year campaign. Maybe he can actually win it this time, and then we'll promote him to the starting lineup. Now that we've got a chance to look at this new and improved New York Knicks roster, let's take a look at what I'm predicting their strengths are going to be. With the addition of Dante DiVincenzo, the Knicks now have 7 out of their 9 rotational players being above average rebounders for their position. We saw how important the interior presence and the rebounding was in that Cleveland Cavaliers series, and I expect them to continue that into next season. Last year, to many people's surprise, including my own, the Knicks were 3rd in offensive rating, and a big part of that was just they took care of their possessions. They won the possessions battle almost every time. And that's where the rebounding comes into play. It doesn't matter how great defense you play. If the team just grabs the rebound and puts up the ball, it's still 2 points for them, no matter what. It's very important to close out possessions, and the Knicks know this very well because on the other side of the floor, they are an incredible offensive rebounding team, gives them multiple chances on offense to score. That's a huge part of why they were such a good offensive team. They don't only win the possession battle through rebounds, though, they also take care of the ball. And turnovers wise, last season they were the 4th best team in turnovers. Julius Randle led the team last year with 2.8 turnovers a game, and I mean, that's understandable. He has some questionable turnovers, if you want to put it that way, but besides that, RJ was 2nd with just barely over 2. Same thing with Jalen Brunson, he averaged just barely over 2. It's kind of like a math equation at that point. If you have more shots to take, you're probably going to make more shots. And I kind of alluded to this earlier in the video, but the Knicks' biggest weakness is their size. Here you have the 7 non-center rotational players for the New York Knicks and their heights, and it's not hard to see they're lacking some serious size. Like I mentioned when talking about the loss of Obi Toppin, the Knicks don't really have a true backup power forward. I assume that they're going to play Josh Hart and RJ Barrett at that power forward. RJ Barrett being the Knicks' tallest wing, as you just saw, being listed at 6'6". And then Josh Hart, you know, with the rebounding and everything, the hustle, he plays way bigger than 6'5". The Knicks could play Isaiah Roby at that backup power forward. They signed him towards the end of last regular season, but he has really struggled to really carve out a role for himself in the NBA on his different teams that he's played for. So I wouldn't bank too much on that. We also did see Jericho Sims playing some backup power forward in spurts last season, so maybe we could see more of that, but I don't really like the spacing of that lineup. If I had to make a bet, I would say it's going to be either RJ Barrett or Josh Hart, but it still could be a little difficult to manage those non-Julius Randle minutes. And then beyond the non-backup power forward issue, the Knicks don't really have any big wings. You see a lot of teams now running guys that are 6'10", 6'9", 6'8" at that small forward position. And like I said, the Knicks' tallest wing is 6'6" RJ Barrett, and beyond that, they're all 6'5" and under. This could lead the Knicks to really struggle to defend against big teams. You know, teams like the Boston Celtics, who are going to be running Porzingis and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and possibly even another center on that. Or like the Magic, who run Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero together, both being 6'10", or the Denver Nuggets, the NBA champions right now, who run Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr., who's 6'10" at that small forward position. Luckily for the Knicks, though, as I just mentioned, one of their strengths is rebounding, so their lack of size shouldn't really affect them in that category. And then also, like I said about Josh Hart, he plays bigger than he is. Dante DiVincenzo plays bigger than he is. Quentin Grimes has a lot of grit and stuff as well. So I don't think it's going to be detrimental to the Knicks, but it is definitely a glaring weakness in their roster. And with that being said, it's time to get to the ceilings and the floors of the Knicks for this next upcoming season. We're going to start off with the good news. We're starting with the ceiling. I think the Knicks could be a top 3 seed this NBA season. If Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle both continue their all-star, all-NBA level play from last season, I think the Knicks are going to be in a great position. Also, you got to bank on some of their younger guys growing even more, like Emmanuel Quickly, Quentin Grimes, RJ Barrett. Hopefully, they can kind of continue to take their steps up. If all these things go into place, I think the Knicks could be that top 3 seed. It's going to be hard to beat like a Boston team in the regular season, or Milwaukee's always really good in the regular season. But in the playoffs, we've seen MSG is loud. Jalen Brunson is a playoff riser. I think this team can make it to the conference championship as a ceiling. We got to bring it back down to earth, though, and with the NBA being riddled with so much talent right now, there's a lot of gap in between what a ceiling and a floor is for this team. The floor right now, I have them being a 7 seed in the play-in tournament. There is that meme that Julius Randle only plays good on even calendar years, so, hopefully that doesn't happen. But if it does, I could see the Knicks being a very disappointing team behind a disappointing Julius Randle season. And then back to the young guys, if Emmanuel Quickly doesn't show improvement in his scoring or playmaking, that could be a little bit of a disappointment. Quentin Grimes getting his three-point shot even higher, that could be a disappointment. RJ Barrett, can he improve on the defensive side of the ball? Can he improve shooting the ball? There's a bunch of different questions around those young guys. If they all disappoint, obviously this is the floor. This is the worst case scenario. I do think, though, if we drop all the way down to the 7th seed, that we would win the play-in tournament and get, into the playoffs. I think it is safe to say the New York Knicks are a lock for the playoffs. Would we win that playoff series, though, as the 7th seed? Probably not. It would be a very disappointing season. Hopefully we're trending more towards that ceiling, though, and not the floor. Hope you guys enjoyed this preseason breakdown of the New York Knicks. Again, like I said, this is the first video out of a bunch that I'm going to be doing. I'll relist the teams again right here. If you see your team, make sure you comment and I'll bring it to the top. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the breakdowns on all these teams. In the description, there's links to my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.